One hit? Now? One. I think it's one. Good evening. Welcome to the City of Boynton Beach City Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, May 6th, 2025, and it is 6 p.m. We will now turn to the city clerk for roll call. Oh, it says May 6th, May 20th. Oops.
Mayor Shelton,
Present.
Vice Mayor Hay,
Present.
Commissioner Cruz. Here. Commissioner Turkin,
Present.
Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Maylee. Pastor Hudson from Christ Fellowship Church will lead the invocation tonight. Then Vice Mayor Woodrow Hay will lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's all stand for the invocation and pledge.
Bow your heads with me. Father, we come before you grateful for the life and breath that you have put into each person in this room that has allowed us to gather together. Father, we look forward to tonight, but we do lift up those in our community who work so tirelessly to support us, our first responders and our teachers and our educators, especially as we come to the end of a school year. We just pray that you would lift them up, that you would give them encouragement and hope. And Father, for this room tonight, that you would give peace to all those in attendance, that those that speak would speak with clarity. And Father, that those are making those decisions on this council would have the wisdom and discernment that can only come from you as they seek to make this a community that is a beacon of hope to all who would look upon it. Father, we are grateful for tonight and just ask your blessing upon this gathering. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now turn to the city attorney to read the title of the shade meeting that was requested.
Not on. Notice is hereby given that in accordance with Section 286.011, subsection 8, Florida statutes, the City of Boynton Beach Commission will hold a closed client shade meeting on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025 at 6 p.m. or as soon thereafter at the City of Boynton Beach City Hall, room 440, located at 100 East Ocean Avenue, Boynton Beach, Florida, 33435, to discuss the following litigation case. E2L Real Estate Solutions, LLC, appellant versus City of Boynton Beach et al., Appellees, 4th District Court of Appeal, case number 4D2025-0505, Lower Tribunal, case number 502022CA 006010. Following the commencement of the City Commission meeting, the City Commission will move into a closed attorney-client shade meeting. The meeting will be attended by Mayor Rebecca Shelton, Vice Mayor Mayor Woodrow Hay, Commissioner Angela Cruz, Commissioner Amy Kelly, Commissioner Thomas Turkin, City Manager Daniel Duggar, City Attorney Shauna G. Lamb, and outside counsel on this matter Catherine Rossmell, and a court reporter. Some participants may attend telephonically or by communications media technology. Approximately 60 minutes will be needed. Following the conclusion of the closed attorney-client shade meeting, the City Commission will resume its regularly scheduled meeting, at which point public business will be concluding and the meeting adjourned. We're set.
Okay.
Could I, one moment. Is there a possibility to amend the agenda to just have the announcements quickly? Because I know there are people in the audience who need to have their presentations done, and I think we had that conversation. I told them, yeah.
Well, we talked about it. I thought, yeah.
Let's skip to section C then.
It was Senator Berman and Representative Casello, correct? They're coming later.
Yeah,
So
we
then-
talked about that at
They're
the
at
workshop.
workshop. Yeah. They're coming at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Oh, they are.
Well, I did have a conversation earlier
Okay.
about at least getting one of the items out of the way, if we could. The 3B, possible?
Which one?
The 3B, yeah.
Share
they're-
squad?
okay.
Yeah, please, if we could.
Are they here?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So let's go ahead and do item C, agenda approval. We'll go ahead and move what we need to move, and we'll move that up, and then we can continue.
Okay, so we're going to begin with the agenda. Are there any approvals, additions, deletions, or requests, corrections, requests? Let's begin to the left. Commissioner Turkin. Commissioner Kelly.
No. No.
Vice Mayor
None.
Hay.
None.
And Commissioner Cruz, you want to move up 3B?
Is it
3B.
3B.
yes, 3B?
Also, Mayor, staff would like to table 7B.
Right, I'm getting to that. I would like to add a discussion item regarding Forest Hill Park and dogs as a discussion item to 10B. Is there a consensus to add this to the agenda?
It needs, it's an agenda item for today? Is it something that we can talk about today?
If we can add it.
If there, there's
Unless you
a,
think you're going to need more information, then we can.
Well, I don't even know what the topic is to know whether or not we need more information.
would you like to move it, would you like to have it on for today as a discussion item or move it to June 3rd?
Let's move it to June 3rd, and then Commissioner Kelly can meet with you guys and find out what's going on. And then staff does request that 7B be tabled until June 3rd. May we have a motion to table 7B?
So moved.
Do I have a second? To table 7B?
Don't we do that when we get there?
Yeah, typically, but
Well, if they're removing
But
it,
it was
it just
staff.
made sense to table it now, but we can go ahead and table it then. And so we can just move to approve the agenda then as amended.
Are we talking about
Yeah.
7B? Are you talking about item 7B?
We're just going to move to table it when we get to consent items.
Okay.
Over 100,000. So just a motion to approve the agenda
Okay.
Okay.
as
so
amended.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Commissioner Turkin did, and I second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion approves unanimously. Now we'll go to the shade meeting?
No,
Or go
3B.
there? 3B, okay. Where are they? Got it.
Good evening. Sherry Claude, Recreation Administrator. On behalf of the Education and Youth Advisory Board, I am honored to present this year's Bob Barovi Student Citizen of the Year Award. Bob Barovi Student Citizen of the Year Award was created in 2000 to recognize a graduating high school senior who best epitomizes the spirit of volunteerism and giving to the community exemplified by the late Bob Barovi, a U.S. veteran and former advisory board member who was an active member of the Boynton Beach community for many years. High school seniors write an essay on what they have learned from performing volunteer service and provide 3 letters of recommendation. The winner must be of good moral character, performed significant volunteer work, and made positive contributions to his or her community. The award is funded through donations secured by the Education Youth Advisory Board, and the winner is selected by a panel of judges, including last year's winner. So we want to thank this year's judges, Poinciana Elementary School Principal Shannon Stockman, Recreation and Parks Advisory Board Chair Julie Mondello, and last year's recipient Leah Collins. Since the inception of the award, the City of Boynton Beach has distributed over $31,000 in awards to 51 high school seniors. And this year, there were 13 applicants, the most in the award's history. This year's recipient, the 25th Bob Barovi Student Citizen of the Year, who will receive $1,000 and have her name placed on the perpetual plaque, is Megan Wilkinson. Megan graduated 13th in her class from the IB program at Atlantic Community High School and was a member of the National Honor Society, Model UN, and participated on the volleyball, soccer, and cross-country teams. She is also a black belt in karate. In her letters of recommendation, she is described as a well-mannered, respectful, and hardworking student and a leader with academic drive. Her community service includes refereeing karate competitions for the Amateur Athletic Union, helping the children who attended the Nat King Cole Summer Strings Camp, wrapping holiday gifts for underprivileged children who are deaf through the Signs of Excellence organization, assisting with classes and fundraisers for the Kickstart Foundation, as well as volunteering for the Palm Beach County Food Bank, Sunfest, and Forgotten Soldiers Outreach. Megan plans to attend Florida State University, majoring in political science, and then attend law school. Congratulations, Megan. That's for you. Thank you very much.
Okay, now we will be taking a break for the
Yes, for the shade meeting.
shade meeting.
The time is 6:10.
The time is 6:10 PM. The time is now 6:39, and we are back from the shade session, and we've continued to the rest of the city commission meeting. Starting off with 2A. We'll move on to the informational items. Actually, we're moving out.
Announcement. Yeah,
Yeah, move on to the informational items by the members of the city commission. So let's start with Commissioner Cruz.
I did receive a call. Wait, we're gonna have, do we do it, when we do this, or? So not yet?
No, not at this time. No, that's only for quasi judicial, so just any informational items that you may
Other
have.
than that, no
Yes.
informational items. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Hay?
None.
None for me. Commissioner Kelly?
no, thank you.
And Commissioner Turkin?
None.
Okay, so we are going to hold on B for now and no on A until Senator Lori Berman and Representative Joe Casello get here. And we can move on to 3C. The next announcement will be by Joe Matthews regarding Tire Amnesty Week.
Evening, how you doing, to the mayor, vice?
Mic on?
I don't think your mic's on, sir.
Oh, okay, I'll talk a little close. Mayor, vice mayor, the city manager, assistant city managers, commission, good evening. We're having, my name is Joe Matthews, division director of solid waste. We're having Tire Amnesty Week from June 2nd to June 6th, 2025. The city will be hosting Tire Amnesty Week to assist residents in the proper disposal of unwanted car and passenger tires. This initiative aims to support neighborhood cleanliness, prevents illegal dumping, and promotes environmental responsibilities. Residents may place up to 8 car tires with or without the rim. Tire collection will occur on residents' scheduled bulk day during the week. The tires will be placed on the edge of the road, at least 3 feet away from the garbage carts or fixed items, or not close to a telephone pole, mailbox. Tires must be kept separate from vegetation and other debris to secure proper handling. Information will be shared through city websites, social media channels, and direct community notification. Residents with questions may call 561-742-6200, option 1, from Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m.
Thank you. The next announcement will be by Gabrielle Favita regarding the Memorial Day ceremonies. Hope I said that right.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Commission. I'm Gabrielle Favita, the Events Director for the city. I am announcing our Memorial Day weekend, I would say. It starts on Friday with a flag planting that will take place at Memorial Park, which is right off of Seacrest and Woolbright. And that will start at 8 a.m. We invite everyone to come out and volunteer if you can on Friday. I think the last count was over 1,800 flags that'll be planted, so we'll take all the help we can get with that. And then following that, on Sunday, we will be having the Memorial Day Veterans Ceremony, which will be hosted at the park as well, and that will start at 2 p.m. It is free, but that is Sunday, the 25th, which is this upcoming Sunday. And all of this is done in partnership with the Veterans Task Force.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Audience, okay. We're going to move on to public audience portion of the meeting. As always, it is 3 minutes per person and non-transferable. The same rules always apply. The speaker must address the commission as a whole, not to any individual on the dais or in the audience. Insult, personal attacks, or disruptions are not permitted, and you may be asked to leave the meeting should you violate these rules. After we have concluded in-person comments, we'll move to online.
Hi, Susan Oyer, Boynton Beach. So I'm here to complain about code. Haven't heard that one in a little while. And of course, the usual complaint about the mayor pictures that still have not been fixed. And my dad is one of 11 people up there whose face has been warped and doesn't look appropriate and needs to be fixed. So please get those fixed. So my dad's property, code came out a few months ago, and rightly so. I didn't have a complaint about that. There were parts of the fence falling down, and our tenants had been driving all over and parking all over without us knowing about, and had damaged all the sprinklers and pipes and everything. So after a couple months of begging my lawn guy to come out, we got that fixed. Everything's green, as green as anybody's yard or greener. And so I get another code enforcement thing in the mail today or yesterday that there's a problem with the fence. Now bear in mind, when they were out the first time, my tenant said, okay, which fence parts, and we'll take care of it. Because we're not fixing it, we'll just rip them down because Pulte's putting up a new fence, so why would we pay to fix a fence that's gonna be ripped down? So they told him, he went and ripped those parts down, everything was fine, and now all of a sudden they have problems with more of it. So I've now had all the fence removed. There's no pool, so I don't legally have to have a fence, so, code should get over that one. But my issue is they're still complaining about the random couple brown patch areas. And of course, I will say, take a look at the utilities building on Seacrest and see all the city's brown patches. So, I don't know if code wants to go start having a conversation with God to make it rain, or Mother Nature, or whatever your deity is that you pray to for more rain. I think maybe code should go have a discussion with that deity and get off people's cases for having the random brown patch in their yard. I will say the lawn guy that I have spent 2 months complaining about has gotten out, but he still hasn't come out and added even more pipes to replace what was destroyed by our tenants. And I'm sure everyone with a rental property understands this. But I know this will come back later and end up in all the papers at some point that Susan Oyer had 2 code enforcement things. And it's for fencing that's already ripped down, because you would not pay for a new fence when your fence is going to be ripped down because someone else is putting up one to replace it. And you would not have a complaint during a drought when we're almost 10 inches short of water about a couple random brown patches that I am actually out there for hours at a time on the weekends watering by hand myself. So I figured I would get it out now publicly before it ends up in the paper at some point, because somebody thinks that's a fun way to come harass me. And thank you. I hope, Thomas, you saw my text message about the Airbnb in my neighborhood that's having huge parties. So please get code out on that. That's worth going after. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening. Connect to Greatness, Boynton Beach. We're here, our mentoring program. We would like to invite the mayor, vice mayor, and the commission to our annual graduation, which is June 14th, and it's Saturday, June 14th, and it's at the
Women's Club.
The Women's Club, the new remodeled Women's Club, and it's that's an awesome place, and we're excited to have it. This will be our 9th year here in the city of Boynton Beach, and when we first started in 2016, we had 6 boys. Now we're here in the city of Boynton, we have 193 boys in the program from 4th grade through 12th grade. So we will just have an open invitation to you all to attend the meeting, to attend our graduation, again, Saturday, June 14th.
And what time?
Yeah, 10:30. It starts at 10:30. You can come anytime. We usually have lunch around 11:30-ish, so if you can be there by 11:30, that'd be great, so you can have lunch with us.
Thank
Can you
you.
state your name for the record, please?
Sure, Cassandra Corbin Thaddeus.
And Andre Thaddeus.
Great.
Put on a great party. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't gone, it's a lot of fun.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience for public comment? And what do we have online?
My name is Robert Swift, resident of the Chapel Hill neighborhood. I know some of you here on the dais. Here to talk about one of the most pressing issues of our day, dogs. I know everybody will agree. The basics of it, and I wrote some notes, but off the cuff, is the city has very confusing ordinances when it comes to dogs. We have, my number is correct, it's around 29 parks within Boynton Beach. I believe there are 7 that are deemed dog-friendly. There's nothing obvious to me as to why those 7 are deemed dog-friendly, and dog-friendly meaning that you can walk your dogs on a leash within those parks, that they should not be off-leash, but then the remaining parks within those 29 are not dog-friendly. You are not allowed to walk your dog in the park. I don't know about this room because it's probably a pretty savvy room in terms of city policy, but I think if you did a general survey and asked people, can and should you be allowed to walk your dog on a leash in a park in your city, they'd probably be like, well, of course, that's like as American as apple pie. But that's not the case in Boynton. We have a specific issue in our own neighborhood where there's been, dogs off leash and different things, so people have been upset about it. The current proposed remedy, which I will not get into the semantics of it, it has been proposed very informally on a private Facebook group that dogs will be completely banned, which again, I'm acknowledging is already the ordinance that's on the books. But within this post, it is said that now this will be enforced. I don't know how all of a sudden, when it wasn't enforced before, when it was acknowledged in this post that it was unenforceable, that now all of a sudden it will be enforced. I don't know where those resources will come from. I think it puts the rangers, I think it puts the police officers in a terrible position to enforce what some on this dais have already acknowledged as the unenforceable. So I think there's some silly kind of community politics to be leveled out here, but my overall message is that I think the city needs to, at some point, just address this contradiction. There's confusion across the board. You have, I would imagine in all 29 of those parks, people walking dogs on leash every day. So you have people breaking a law every day, even though I'm acknowledging it's kind of a silly law. The exception should, or the rule should be the dogs are allowed in all parks, and then you make exceptions for where they're not allowed. It should not be the opposite, where the rule is they're not allowed anywhere, and then you make specific exceptions for specific parks. And the last thing I'll say is the city has spent money, man-hours installing signs about dogs in these parks where they're not allowed. You also host events right outside of this building where there's dogs aplenty, where it's a much more crowded situation, where it could be more dangerous. So I would just ask for consistency and less confusion. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience for public comment? Please come down.
Well, my name is Paul Davidson. I'm actually going to continue on with the last gentleman's comments. What he failed to mention is that there's conflicting signage, or was conflicting signage, in the park. There indeed was a sign that stated no dogs allowed, with the exception of service dogs. That sign is still up today. There were also signs in the park that stated all dogs must be on leash, and gave it code. Those signs, at least 2 of them have been taken down. I believe there's still 1 up. So there is a conflicting statement, in fact, that is being purveyed to the population. I became aware of a meeting that happened approximately a week or so ago, and that meeting, the culmination of that meeting was that all dogs are disallowed from the park by majority of the vote. Well, it was a closed meeting. I'm not part of that Facebook group that was notified of the meeting. Under Florida code, and I believe it's code 166.041, there's very specific guidelines as to what has to happen when you're dealing with establishing new ordinances. Now, if the ordinance is in fact no dogs, okay. But as stated, you have conflicting information. One sign says dogs must be on a leash, another sign says no dogs. What is it? This is not multiple choice. So I would respectfully submit that there should be some established statement regarding the conflict between the signage and what the actual rule is. clearly I'm in favor of walking a dog on a leash. I've got multiple pets, and it's very convenient. And I'm willing to go by whatever the regulations are, but I would expect that those regulations are administered fairly. And there's a number of other things that happen in the area that does not, that they're not, objecting to those things. They're objecting to the dogs. And I would say that, fine, if we have to abide by these rules, then I would expect that there's no alcohol, there's no motorized vehicles running around in the park. That's more of a danger than the dogs. When you have motorized vehicles running around the park at 15, 20 miles an hour, somebody's going to get hit and get hurt. And in most cases, it's children
10
that are doing it.
seconds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience for public comment? Please come down. If not, we're going to move on to see if anyone is online. No one is online, so we can go back to...
Mayor, if I may, thank you guys for bringing your feedback. I just want to clear up some nuances and miscommunication, that there was indeed public notice through the proper protocols of this neighborhood meeting. And as the ordinance is today, there is conflicting signs, and that's the city's accountability to address that. That's where we failed, as an organization, that there is that confliction. And so as the ordinance is, per the signage, there are no dogs allowed. So the city has not been enforcing that. And so if there's any change, that's something that this body would decide via ordinance, right? And so I think that's what the mayor wanted as far as discussion goes. But to say that this was an unjust meeting is inaccurate. And I think it's important for the record that that's identified, that this was done properly and it was cited on the city website. Thank you.
Okay, let's go back to 3A for the legislative update by Senator Lori Berman and Representative Joe Cassell. Thank you so much for being here. Senator Berman, you want to go first?
You take the taller one.
That works. That works.
Good evening, Mayor. Congratulations.
Thank you
and
so much.
Commissioners, so happy to be back in town and be here with all of you to give our legislative report. Friends, neighbors, good evening. So you probably heard that we have one constitutional duty and that we failed to do it. And that duty is to get a balanced budget. So we will be going back to Tallahassee. We don't know when. The fiscal year of the state is begins July 1st, so it needs to be done before July 1st. I do believe it will be done before July 1st. I hope so, because we are not like the federal government. We can't do continuing resolutions and things like that. So hopefully it will be resolved by then. And part of the back and forth has to do with everybody has different ideas about how they want the government right now in Florida has been fairly I guess the word is flush. So there's money available to do tax breaks and things like that. There's a lot of infighting about what tax breaks should happen. So we don't really know how it will all end up. I do anticipate that there will be about a $115 billion budget. Last year it was 117. So we are starting to pull back a little bit. We don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty about what the federal government's going to do and how much money will come down to the states through the federal government. So we need to be aware of that as we're putting forth any proposals about tax breaks and sales tax, property tax, a lot of different rent tax, commercial services tax, communication services tax. So as that happens, we're going to be aware of the fiscal impact, and we want to make sure that anything that's done is going to be sustainable for the future on the budget issue. So that being said, I will say we had one of the best sessions I've had in my 15 years, and I think I have represented Boynton Beach for all of those 15 years. And we did not do as much of the cultural war infighting. It was great, and we also woke up a little bit and recognized that we are a co-equal branch of government, And so we did a lot more where we were independent. So it was a pretty successful session overall. I was fortunate to pass 5 bills, one of them for breast cancer treatment, I guess it is. So if you're in the state insurance plan and you have a mammogram and you have to have subsequent testing, that will now be covered by the state. So if you need a subsequent MRI or an ultrasound, I also passed a bill recognizing January 27th as International Holocaust Remembrance Day, so that can be recognized by the schools and by the governor's office. And then I passed a great bill with my colleague, and I'm going to pass it to him. We sort of team tag in these presentations, and I'll let him talk about that too.
Thank you, Senator. Good evening. It's nice to see so many friendly faces up there and be back home. Madam Mayor, congratulations.
Thank you,
Well
sir.
done. Like the senator said, this, I'll give you some numbers. This year, bills filed for consideration, almost 2,000 bills were filed, 2,000 bills. Only 254 bills passed out of 2,000. So it's great difficulty to get a bill even heard in committee, even harder to get it passed off the Senate floor or the House floor. So we're proud of those accomplishments, especially being a minority party. It's tough. My bill and Senator's bill, we've been working on is approximately 3 years. And sometimes it takes 3 years to get things done. And I'll talk about that a little later on because we got some real issues coming up in the future that didn't pass this session, but will be back next session. So we'll talk about that a little early. My bill was HB 295, the Comprehensive Waste Reduction Recycling Plan. This bill instructs the Department of Environmental Protection to develop a comprehensive waste reduction and recycling plan based on the recommendation outlined in the DEP's 2020 recycling goal final report. This bill generally will help Florida move towards reducing the overall amount of waste produced through diversion of materials from landfill and implementing strategies to increase reuse recycling. We're trying to get that number to recycling up in Florida to do 75%. Palm Beach County does pretty good, but not well enough with educational programs, getting in schools. We hope to increase that number.
Okay, a couple of the good bills that passed that I just want to inform everybody about. If you may recall over the last summer, there was discussion about commercializing some of our state parks and putting things like hotels and pickleball courts, and there was a lot of people who were up in arms about that. So this year, we actually passed a bill that said that they cannot do that in the state parks, and it was a real bipartisan bill. We're really excited. We want to keep our state parks pristine, and that bill will go a long way to doing that. Do you want to talk about school start times? You want to do that? Okay, I'll do that, sure. Oh, okay, great. So another bill that we passed a couple years ago, you may remember, we passed a bill saying that we wanted the high school start time to be later. And that was based on empirical data that shows that the older children need more sleep and do better when they get sleep. Unfortunately, we gave a long glide-in period to implement that of 3 years. And unfortunately, a lot of the school boards, including our own in Palm Beach County, just said it's a logistical nightmare and they just cannot do it. So because of that, we did walk it back this year. So there is no mandatory requirement for the schools to start later. We did leave in there that we recommend it and that any school district that can do it, they should be doing it. But when we do something that's not going to work, we recognize it and we took it back.
I'd like to talk about CRAs. Folks, let me just read from this paper for a second. It was CS HB 991, Community Redevelopment Agency. Let me read it. Essentially, sunsets Florida community Development Agency, CRAs, prohibits creation of new CRAs, terminates CRAs on a earlier, their expiration date in the charter as of July 1, 2025, or September 30, 2045. Removes local government's ability to prove its continued existence by majority vote, prohibits CRAs from starting new projects or new debt after October 1st, 2025. Luckily, this bill died in the Senate, was getting bounced back and forth from the House to the Senate and House. We couldn't come together on a plan, so the bill died. But like I said earlier, bad bills have a tendency to come back every year. This bill will be back next year. We know the importance of a CRA in Boynton Beach. I've been sat up there where you're sitting. I know the good it does. And in fact, on your leadership, Mayor, you just gave a TIF program of Town Square that long been in the making. So I commend you for that. So let's keep an eye on this. The CRA lawyer came up to visit me in Tallahassee, but it was already a couple of weeks too late. So let's get ahead of the curve this time, put our input in it, show up for committee hearings and fight this to otherwise the CRA will no longer be in existence.
So one of the things I think it's important for us to talk to you about is exactly along the same lines as that, and that is what is done on preemption, where Tallahassee says to you, we are taking this away from the locals. And of course, you know, both of us are very strong opponents of preemption and strong proponents of home rule. So this year there wasn't as much, but there were a couple bad things that you should be aware of. One of the things I found the most troubling as the wife of a dentist is that the state preempted any city and county from including fluoride in their water supply. So whether a city or county wants to do it, I think should be their determination, should be done on an individual basis by those closest. But now that decision has been taken away. And I will tell you, my husband will tell you that putting fluoride was one of the 10 greatest things that happened in terms of public health in the last century. And we've seen the effects. I'm hopeful the Dental Association is going to try and work and make fluoride available to children who are in lower socioeconomic brackets, because it could be a real problem. They did it in Calgary, Canada, and they saw a spike in children who had to be hospitalized for dental infections. So I hope we don't find ourselves in that situation and that we're able to address it proactively. Do you want to bring up this one? Because it might affect us here in Palm Beach County about the presidential library.
Libraries. We passed the bill. I say we, the House and the Senate passed the bill, not necessarily our votes for that. For presidential libraries, takes it completely out of the local authorities' hands. So we could have the sitting president could decide that he wants to build his library, briny breeze, as mentioned a couple of times. I have no inside knowledge of this for FYI, but that's no parking, yeah.
No building
No regulations at all. It takes all the power out of your hands, and that's not good. Anybody serving local politics, local governments know that. You are the closest to people, you know? You make the best decisions for your constituents here in Boynton Beach, not in Tallahassee, almost 500 miles away. And that's the trend up there to undermine the local government's authority. And it comes up every year, little bit. And I don't know the answer to stop it, mitigate it, but it's happening as you see it. So presidential library, we could have one right here somewhere in Boynton Beach. So keep that in mind.
And then the other particularly bad bill about preemption was Senate Bill 1080. And it has to do with local government land regulation. And so it has to do with when you're permitting new projects. There are they're changing the timeframes that you have to respond to the permit requests. You will be hearing about it, I'm sure, from the League of Cities and the League of Counties. And there is a penalty. If you don't respond in those timeframes, you have to give money back to the people who have applied for the building permits. So I'm sure you will hear a lot more about it, but that was probably one of the worst preemption bills that got passed this session.
Well, we passed the bill, not this session, but last session, and you're seeing the trouble, potential trouble coming from the live local. You had a situation, I think, was Los Mangos, where piece of land, this developer decided to put a 8-story building in, upsetting the neighborhood view and everything else, the structure of the neighborhood, basically. But he's allowed to do this now. And this Live Local Act bypasses local ordinances, zoning, density, height, builder under the pretense of affordable housing. This, I think, Los Mangos, 60% of the building is single bedroom units. I don't know how that helps, families and everything like that. But you're going to see more and more of this, and you have no say, practically no say, in how the developers move forward, and it even pertains to church lands. Churches now could decide to put a high-rise or building up under the pretense of Live Local Affordable Housing Act. So just keep that in the back of your mind. It's not good news. The intent of the law we passed had a lot of good things in it for veterans such, but the developers are using it as a tool to move forward to bypass city ordinances, and that wasn't the intent.
So that's pretty much a summary of where we are. I will just say the one bill that I thought was the worst bill this session has to do with citizens petitions and putting amendments on the ballot for the citizens. We've done a lot of great grassroots amendments over the years. We did raising the minimum wage in the state of Florida. We did allowing returning citizens from incarceration to have the right to vote. We did fair districts. And unfortunately, in Tallahassee, they just don't like that some of these amendments have passed and are being passed. They claim it's because of fraud, but the numbers of fraud are very low. But we made it really, really hard for a citizens groups now to file these petitions. And what's going to happen is only large, well-funded corporations are going to be able to come in and bring these petitions. And I'll give you an example of some of the things. An individual, such as all of us in this room, can now only collect 25 petitions total over the life of the entire petition drive. And if you collect more than 25 and you're not registered, it is considered a felony. And you will be charged with jail. You could potentially go to jail. You can register as a petition circulator, but you have to have a bond, and there's a whole procedure, and the average person isn't going to do something like that. You have to turn in all the petitions that you collect now within 10 days. Used to be 30 days, and if you don't turn them in 10 days, they charge you $50 per petition that you turn in late. So that was, to me, the most troubling bill that we did this session, and there has already been a lawsuit brought, and we will see how the courts make a determination about that.
Another bill, just a crazy bill. We spent half a afternoon on a House floor debating the Gulf of Mexico, changing it to Gulf of America. All the issues we face, insurance, property insurance, taxes, and everything like that, we spent half a session on the House floor talking about the Gulf of Mexico, now formally named the Gulf of America. And originally, the bill said all schools would have to take the books off the shelves that had Gulf of America in it, change it. They revised that to say when the schools change the books over now get new books, new texts, and the word of Gulf of America would be in his books. So it's silliness at best, chaos every day. And like you say, the senator said, the only constitutional thing we got to do to pass the budget, and we haven't passed it. The Senate and the House are $4.4 billion apart on this, and they dug their heels in. So I don't know what's going to give. We don't know. We don't.
I mean, I will tell you, one of the things they're looking at is some relief on property taxes, and that will probably have to be a constitutional amendment. That's the good news, it will be a constitutional amendment. The bad news is it's pretty hard to vote against an amendment to lower your property taxes, but we're gonna have to get the word out that it's gonna affect all of us as citizens in terms of our firefighters and our police and our infrastructure and our social services. So we don't know, there is a House committee looking into how they're gonna plan that amendment. We don't know the details yet. Actually, you have some proposals, yeah?
Yeah, if I could read one.
Sure, go ahead, sure.
One of the proposals, create a new $500,000 homestead exemption, increase the exemption to $1 million for residents who are 65 years of age or older, or residents who have had a homestead exemption for 30 years or more. These exemptions would apply to all non-school taxes. What that means, the ad valorem tax is the mother's milk of local politics. We know that. Infrastructure, police, fire, everything that makes the city run. This sounds good on paper. I don't think the people, it'll be up to you people as local officials to sell this idea. It's not such a good idea. It sounds good on paper, but the end, when you call 911 or you want a sidewalk fixed, it's not going to be there, folks, because of this. So that's down the road. It's got to go on a ballot, but like the senator said, anybody gets an amendment that can cut their taxes, you know, they're on board with this. So just something to think about. There's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts. I would encourage you. I know you had some travel issues coming up the Palm Beach County days, but next time, please, I try to keep a line of communication open, give you an update as it happens. I'll continue to do that, but we got some real issues coming on the road. We got to be ready for it. And I would like to close
Sure,
with one.
and then you do that, and then I'll close with one thing too.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
In my tenure up there, I've been accused not bringing money back to the city, but let me tell you folks, it's not up to me. I fight for dollars up there, appropriations dollars all the time. I can only get it on the governor's desk. The governor has to sign it. But I would like to say this time around, with the budget being where it is, it's tough, and we won't go up there for a
Week or two,
week or two to, get together with the Senate and the chairs, and we argue back and forth why we need this. But right now, we have, it was for the Boynton fire, the high flood swift water rescue response program. Your ask was 500. We got 250 in the House for that. Nothing in the Senate yet. The Women's Club, your ask was for $350,000. We got 175 in the House. I fought for 100. We got 175,000 in the House. The Boynton Beach Sanitary Sewer Collection System Improvement Project, your ask was 500. We got 250 in the House. We got 500,000 in the Senate. That's looking good.
That's great, yeah.
That's good. Another one, Boynton Beach Water Distribution, your ask was 375. We got 187.5 in the House and 375 in the Senate already. So the money's there. Just keep your fingers crossed with the governor. He's going to move that day and doesn't take it all away with a pen. But I can tell you, the senator and I, appropriations, our districts, we fight hard. But unfortunately, we don't have the final say. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, Thank you, and I'm excited that both of those last two programs are funded in both chambers, and that's a really good sign moving forward. So hopefully we can even bring it to the higher level that the Senate put it for it in both of those. So we'll see what happens. So I always like to close with a little bit more of a lighthearted. We do some bills that are a little more lighthearted, not too many, but the one that this year that I want to highlight, the state bird right now is the mockingbird. And it's not unique to Florida, and so there's always been a couple bills filed to change it. And this year, it didn't get through, but the rumor is it will get through next year. They want to change the state bird to the scrub jay, but what I like more about it is we're also going to include the flamingo as part of our state bird. So I think it would be great if we can use the flamingo for Florida. So that's pretty much it. We're happy to take questions. We're really proud to represent all of you in Tallahassee. We love to be your voice, and we're glad to be here with the mayor and the commissioners.
Thank you so much. This was a great presentation from both of you.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay.
Just closing, our lines are always open. Kelly, you know. Amy?
My aide is here, Sophia Cabej, and my office, as you all know, is in the Children's Service Council building right at Gateway and 95. So we're all, and he's right in downtown Boynton, or, well, not downtown, West Point. Yeah.
I just, really quick, I wanted to say, thank you for all of your hard work with the CRA. I know the FRA and League of Cities and we're in touch on a regular basis with both of you with regard to your voting on, your voting history on those bills. So I just wanted to say thank you. But I also had one question, just super quick. The Senate bill was the amendments were a little bit more promising, and I know that they worked very closely with the FRA to come up with language that was more protected the CRA's ability to do their job, but it also protected taxpayer dollars from being misused, which I think was a lot of the concerns of some of the senators who brought this bill up. In the House, I know that they didn't want to change theirs, and they went off the rails and attached it to some crazy rural bill. I'm hoping, I guess, that they gets slided in another way. So we were thankful that died and didn't make it any further. But I know that this is something that will come up next year, and I just wonder what is the thought process on it? Will the Senate continue to work with the FRA? Will the House? Is there potential for the House to also work with the FRA to really come up with a bill that fixes the misuse issues that are there, the concerns? Because I don't even know how many true misuses there are, but the concerns of misuse while still protecting the municipality's abilities to have, for these CRAs. So just very brief, I just wanted to know if there was anything.
It's been my experience in the House, the Senate, their House of Reason over there. Thank you. We come up with, like you say, the House bill was terrible. And thank God the Senate said, no, we're going to do this and do that and change it. And we didn't accept that on the House. But like I said earlier, it'll be back. I don't know what form it will take, but it will be back, and the CRAs will be touched by whatever comes down, good or bad or ugly. But something's going to be happening next session. Just beware.
And I do think the Senate will hold firm, at least for next year, with the same group that we have this year. But it's hard, and the Senate has been the upper chamber. We do try and bring all the stakeholders to the table and get everybody to agree, because there were some problems with some CRAs, and that's why this happened. But then the pendulum swings too far the other way, where they say, okay, then we're getting rid of every CRA, which is crazy. So we are trying to bring all the stakeholders together, and I'm sure we will again next year.
Yeah, and I just might add, Senator Berman has been elected the minority leader up in Tallahassee to the Senate.
Congratulations, leader.
And
Thank
you'll
you.
ever watch her in action, she's tenacious. So
Thank you.
So you got a good crew up there fighting for you. Let's keep in communication. Please give a call. Any questions or any ideas, reach out to us. You know, that's where we get them. You know, some of the bills we pass or formulate come from average, everyday citizens, you know? We don't think them up ourselves all the time, so any input would be welcomed.
I'm really proud of you two representing us. Most of the people in Tallahassee, they come through local government, don't they?
A lot do.
It must be in the water or something that they lose their minds once they get in Tallahassee. Because a lot of those issues, if they were really meaningful and had impact, they would probably bring them up on the local level. But they don't show up until they get up in Tallahassee and go crazy. So, you know, you don't have to comment on that, but it just seems that I haven't seen this many crazy bills in a long time on what's happening in Tallahassee. And it just kind of scares me a little bit.
Scares me too. Maybe taking the fluoride out of the water will help with the thinking process.
I think that's what it is. Maybe we need to put a little more or something. I don't know.
Okay, thank you, ladies and
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on for administrative. The first item under administrative will be to ratify the selection of Alexandria Lopresetto as chair and Thomas Remicchio as vice chair for the Community Redevelopment Advisory Board, I'm sorry. May we have a motion to approve the selection of the chair and vice chair for the CRA Advisory Board?
So move.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, well, we have a first from Vice Mayor Hay, second from Commissioner Turkin. All those in favor say aye.
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 Were you opposed?
I
He
second.
made the
He
second.
seconded
I
it.
second
Oh,
it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, he made the second. So the motion passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to 5B. This item was tabled at the last meeting, so we need to remove this item from the table. May we have a motion to untable proposed resolution number R25-105?
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Turkin and a second from Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion passes unanimously. This resolution is regarding the Transportation Agency. In April, we chose Commissioner Kelly as the representative, Commissioner Turkin is the first alternate representative, and Commissioner Cruz is the second alternate representative. It has come to our attention that there could be only one alternate. Who would like to begin the conversation?
I'll nominate Commissioner Cruz to be the alternate.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Turkin and a second from Vice Mayor Hay.
Just for a conversation, when I do have more free time next year, I would like to look at being the alternate or even the primary for this, for the record.
Okay. So with Commissioner Kelly as the first one, Commissioner Cruz would be the alternate. All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes.
Just a comment, it still doesn't prohibit attendance. Any of us can attend.
Correct.
We just won't be sitting up on the board.
And they do actually have online, you can appear via
Yes.
Zoom online, so it really is open to anyone. So.
Right.
Great. So moving on to community support funds. We have a following request. The Community Support Funds, Commissioner Kelly has a request of $1150 to the Women's Foundation, and Commissioner Turkin has a request for $500 to the Boynton Purple Cobras, and Commissioner Cruz has a request for $500 each to Young in Faith, Heart of Boynton Association of Faith in Florida. May we have a motion to approve these requests and a
Motion to approve.
Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Kelly and a second from Commissioner Turkin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to the advisory board appointments. The senior advisory board item was tabled at the last meeting, so we will need to remove this item from the table. May we have a motion to untable the senior advisory board?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So, Sarkin and, was it you that made the second? Okay. We have a motion from Commissioner Turkin and a second from Commissioner Cruz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. We have two boards with applications. First up is the Historic Resources Preservation Board. There are 3 regular positions and 2 alternate positions, and we have 1 applicant. This nomination goes to Commissioner Cruz. Would you like to go ahead and make the motion?
I will not be making a nomination today.
You will not? Okay. Passing on that one. The next application, the next board with an application is the Senior Advisory Board, which was 1 regular and 2 alternate position available. This nomination goes to Commissioner Turkin, who will appoint a regular member to the Senior Advisory Board. Would you like to make your motion?
Motion to appoint Monique Bowden or Bodden.
Okay.
Second?
We have a motion for Commissioner Turkin and a second for Vice Mayor Hay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion passes unanimously. There are no applicants for the following boards, but we encourage residents to apply if you're interested. The Art Advisory Board, the Building Board of Adjustments and Appeals, Education and Youth Advisory Board, Library Board, and Recreation and Parks Board. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Question.
Yes.
Just a general question. When we have challenges getting people to volunteer for the boards. When we have someone that any of us decide not to nominate, should there be a question as to why? Because I guess it's for legal, because I may not know what someone else knows, and if that person is rejected by one of my colleagues, I want to know why, so that I won't make that mistake. Is that something that we should discuss later?
I do not have an answer to that, but it is certainly something I can look into.
Okay.
As far as Robert's rules and those sorts of inquiries. It's not something that's addressed in our code,
Okay.
but I can look into it.
Thank you.
We will now be moving on to the consent agenda. If my colleagues want to pull any items from consent, let's begin to my left. Commissioner Turkin? Commissioner Kelly?
No.
Vice Mayor Hay?
None.
Commissioner Cruz?
No.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Kelly and a second from Vice Mayor Hay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to 7, consent bids and purchases over $100,000. If my colleagues would like to pull any items, let's begin to my right. Commissioner Cruz?
Not for me.
Vice Mayor Hay?
None.
Commissioner Kelly?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Turkin?
None. Motion to approve.
Mayor?
We need to,
Second.
Mayor?
sorry, we have
Only
to.
7.
Staff would like to request table 7B to
7B.
June 3rd, please.
Motion to table 7B.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Turkin to table 7B and a second from Vice Mayor Hay. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed say nay.
Motion to
passes.
approve consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner
Amended,
Turkin
maybe, as amended?
as amended.
As amended, that's fine. I mean, we already tabled 7B.
Right, okay. So we have a motion from Commissioner Turkin to approve the agenda and a second from Vice Mayor Hay. All of those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. We have several public hearing items for a second hearing. Public comment will be permitted on these items. This item was tabled at the last meeting, so we would need to remove this item from the table. May we have a motion?
Motion to remove from the table.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Turkin and a second from Vice Mayor Hay. All of those in favor say aye.
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 All of those opposed say nay. Motion passes unanimously, and I will turn to the city clerk to read 8A into the record.
Proposed ordinance number 25-003, second reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Part 3, Land Development Regulations, Chapter 1, General Administration, Article 2, Definitions, amending Chapter 2, Land Development Process, Article 2, Planning and Zoning Division Services, Section 5, Permit Applications, amending Chapter 3, Zoning, Article 5, Supplemental Regulations, Section 3, Common Building appurtenance, standing structures and site amenities, excluding walls and fences, amending Chapter 4, Site Development Standards, Article 8, Utility Infrastructure Design Standards, Section 3, Standards, establishing regulations for artificial turf, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Could we please have staff begin the presentation?
Good evening, Mayor and the City Commissioner. My name is Jane Kim, Principal Planner with the Planning and Zoning Division. The presentation has been not changed. However, staff amended a code draft to expand the artificial turf area from the 800 square foot, 1,000 square foot as a request by Commissioner Turkin in the April 15th, 2025 meeting. No changes made to the presentation. However, if you wish, staff can go over.
Okay.
Any comments or
Anyone else
questions
wants
from the
to
commission?
go back into it?
Okay. Public comment is permitted at this time. Reminder, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, Susan Oyer, Boynton Beach. I want to say thank you for finally finishing this. This has been dragging on for months and months. Thank you, Commissioner Turkin, for taking the lead on this. I am not the only one who has artificial turf in their yard, and as we are approximately 10 inches down on water, we need to be doing everything we can to be going as sustainable as possible and reducing the amount of water usage in our city. And this is a great way to move forward. Obviously, California did it for a reason. Why? It keeps your yard looking green without any of the chemicals and the fertilizers and without the water usage, which we just do not have. I mean, we all know there's no water left in the city. We're selling our water to 10 other cities approximately, and we got to find ways to save our water. And thank you very much. I hope you will consider adding gravel and mulch as other options along the way, so that, I mean, my yard is not the only zero-escaped yard in Boynton Beach. There's that one in Forest Park that's been there for longer than I've been alive that is nothing but cactus and rocks, and it is absolutely beautiful, especially when the cactus go into bloom several times a year. So I would ask you to actually expand this and add gravel and mulch in planted areas so that you don't just have a yard full of artificial turf. It'd be nice to see something else, or a yard of just gravel or a yard of just mulch. Let's have some flowers and trees. And I do also hope, what was the other thing I wanted to add? Oh, that you consider adding the grid and gravel system for the driveways that I have. I mean, I got mine approved by the city commission years ago, and I know I have the only one, but we need to be looking at more permeable pavement like Walmart has, where, the water goes through. And I tagged you all on something that was on Facebook about what Germany's doing, where they have a new concrete that's actual true concrete that you would use for your pavement and your roads. But we should be looking at all of our options and give this even more teeth. But thank you, Commissioner Turkin, for taking the lead on this. I know several of my neighbors and yours have artificial turf and wanted it and have had to pay exorbitant fines with the city and lose out tens of thousands of dollars that they had invested because they came from other states where this was allowed. So maybe there should be a way to look back and see if we can assist those people as well in getting some kind of, money back or allow them to bring back or help them in some way. But thank you, and please approve this.
If there are no further questions or comments from the commission or any other public comment.
Real quick, I know in Tallahassee, they were doing something that would supersede any regulation of artificial turf.
Yes, that's for single-family homes or residences less than 1 acre. One of the things that we noticed is that it requires our Environmental Protection Agency, Florida's, to develop rules.
Mm-hmm.
And in looking at how long that typically takes them is 6 months to a year. So we are going to go ahead and regulate it now, knowing that we might have to amend.
Loosen it up even more.
Correct.
Okay, perfect.
Great. If there's nothing else, may we have,
I
go
do
ahead.
have a question on that. Just for my own education, is the turf recyclable or will it go to a landfill?
Based on our research, that's not recyclable material.
It is recyclable?
It is not
It is
recyclable
not.
material.
So when it reaches its life end, whatever that is, then it will probably go to some landfill somewhere.
Or it goes to the facility in the, I believe this one is Northwest Palm Beach, that in the burning facility. There is a facility that it burns it, and that could be possibly there, or it can be a landfill. As far as in terms of a recycling material, it's not.
And we've handled all of the fears of chemical runoff into our system and, okay. You know, I just read about some horror stories sometime, and I'm sure that Boynton Beach is on top of all of that.
So one of the criteria for the artificial turf is made in United States, to be sure. It meets minimum standards.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. If there is nothing else, may we have a motion to approve proposed ordinance number 25-003 on a second reading?
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Turkin and a second from Vice Mayor Hay. Let's turn to the city clerk for a roll call, please.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin?
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hay?
Yes.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passed unanimously.
Moving
Mayor
on.
and Commission, if I may. So I know that there had been concerns previously with some of our current enforcement as far as artificial turf. And so just want to inform you all that we will work with any existing properties that we had paused enforcement on and let them know that this passed and help them along to get a permit for those, okay?
Thank you. Okay, this item was tabled at the last meeting, so we need to remove this item from the table. May we have a motion to untable proposed ordinance number 25-004?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Turkin and a second from Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion passes unanimously. I will turn to the city clerk to read 8B into the record, please.
Wow. That's a lot to read.
Give me 1 second. Proposed ordinance number 25-004, second reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending the Art of Public Places and Public Beautification regulations of the Code of Ordinances, repealing Part 2, Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 11, Arts Commission, and Article 12, Art in Public Places Program, repealing Chapter 27, Advisory Boards and Committees, Article 2, Boynton Beach Art Advisory Board, Section 27-21, Intent, Section 27-22, Divisions, Section 27-25, Establishment of Public Art Fee, Section 27-26, Public Art Fund, and Section 27-27, Art in Public Places Guidelines, amending Chapter 27, Art Advisory Boards and Committees, Article 2, Boynton Beach Art Advisory Board, Section 27-24, Proposed Purpose and Duties, amending Part 3, Land Development Regulations, Chapter 1, General Administration, Article 2, Definitions, and Article 5, House Initiatives, Section 1, State Housing Initiatives Partnership Act, amending Part 3, Land Development Regulations, Chapter 2, Land Development Process, Article 6, Impact and Selected Fees, Section 5, Art in Public Places, amending Chapter 4, Site Development Standards, Article 14, Murals, establishing regulations to regulate and provide standards of the Art in Public Places Program and Public Beautification, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Good evening, Amanda Radigan, Planning and Development Director.
If we, I'm sorry, we need to untable it first.
We did.
Oh, my gosh.
That's okay. Staff, you can begin the presentation.
So there have been no changes to the ordinance. Staff did add a slide to the presentation. I'm happy to go through the presentation in its entirety if the commission chooses so. If not, I will skip through the last slide. One of the things that came up That is for the commission to discuss if you would like to amend the ordinance to include some language that clarifies what this fund cannot be used for. Some of the things we heard at the first meeting was that they were going to be used for like landscaping, for trees, for amenity fixtures. And we could add some language that clarifies that anything that is code required or kind of like out of a catalog would not be eligible for use of this fund. It is not currently in the ordinance, but we can solidify some language and add it in if it is the will of the commission.
Comments from the commission or questions?
No, just for clarification, so what's in front of us on the slide would be available to be utilized?
We
once-
can add it into, no, I'm sorry. So right now, there has been no change to the ordinance. This slide is, we could possibly include it in the ordinance if the commission would like to clarify that these items cannot be used within the public fund. Meaning if the code requires you to plant trees, you can't use the public art fund to pay for those trees. If
Right.
the code requires you to put trash cans or benches, that shouldn't be an eligible use of your public art fund. So this would be cleaning up some of that language that didn't quite make it in there in this first version.
Yeah, I'm not sure about adding the code required, because I feel like the city's losing out if that's the case. But for commercial signage, I think that's definitely a use that would be beneficial. And that helps mitigate costs from the budget as well.
So these are things that would not be permitted for a private entity to spend their public art fund dollars on. The code requires these things. They have to do them, and it wouldn't be an eligible use because it wouldn't be public. If you're doing anything above code, right? So if we are only requiring 6 trees and you are coming up with this amazing aesthetic landscape plan, then the remainder above code may be eligible, but not the minimum code requirements.
I think I'm confused. So what, talk to me like I'm a golden retriever and 8-year-old. What is the change between first reading and second reading? Because I wasn't here for the first reading.
So there has been no change in the ordinance yet.
What is your proposed changes that
Yes,
you're?
so the proposed change is to exclude these items from eligibility to be spent money on.
Exclusion.
Exclude them,
Got it.
right.
Okay.
These are things
Okay.
that the developers are expected to do,
Right.
and we don't want them to double dip. We don't want them to say,
That's-
you're
that's
making
my-
me do
that's
this,
my
I'm gonna,
point.
yes.
Yeah, that's
This
my
would
point.
clean it
Okay.
up and not allow them to do that.
Okay, perfect. No, I'm okay with that. Thanks.
Great.
I can make a-
Please.
Thank you. I wanted to make a quick point. 2 things. Some of these decisions are going to be financial decisions, and I know it's going to be going to the art board. I don't know if there's an opportunity for maybe for the commission to get, when it comes to credit, for it to come to commission potentially on the consent agenda, so that we can maybe not necessarily do anything about it, but we can just see what's going on. I would definitely propose having that as an opportunity, not specifically to the actual artwork that's being installed, but potentially for any credits. And then another thing I wanted to discuss was.
Commissioner Cruz, there aren't credits in the program right now. You are either doing a pay in lieu of program or you are providing art. So there's no mix of the two currently.
Thank you. And then I wanted to add potentially something with regard to architectural excellence as an opportunity to do things that could be architecturally artfully, good to the eye, and potentially be really nice to have better architecture in our buildings in the city, which would change the outlook of our city as a whole. I wanted to provide an opportunity for, to work with staff to define what architectural excellence means, but to, add that to the, as part of the art for the city.
So we would need consensus to move forward for something that, in the research I've done, excellence in architecture is absolutely something that a lot of cities do. It is not rolled into the public art program or like a beautification program. There are ways to incentivize specific types of architectural styles purely within the code. There are ways to require architectural elements purely within the code. To incentivize them with dollars gets complicated, because then you'd have to create line items and price tags for it. It's not necessarily a budget, like it would be almost like an all or nothing thing. Like, are we going to pay for their architectural design elements or not? Like, you know, it gets really complicated. And there are other ways to incentivize it, that, you know, staff is happy to look at some options, if this isn't the location the commission wants to move forward with.
So I definitely like the sentiment of what you're trying to propose. I don't think including it in this specific ordinance is the way forward, but I would definitely support what you're trying to accomplish, I believe. I just think it gets too hairy, and, you know, I think that's something completely separate. I agree. I think we should definitely incentivize, what was the term?
Architectural excellence.
Architecture excellence. You know, I can definitely get on board with that, but I think that's an item that we should look at solely, and you'll definitely have my support for that.
In that case, can I add that to a future agenda?
Fine with me.
And what is the percentage in pay in lieu of, as opposed to if they do this?
Yes, so this, that is one of the changes in here. So it is incentivizing people to do the pay in lieu of over providing the art. It is a 10% discount of the fee, which is 1% of construction value.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commission or questions?
There a cap on that?
There is a cap for what the fee can be of $1 million.
That's what what was it?
There's the 1% cap.
Administrative fee in there too, what was that?
Altogether. So the entire thing together is 1% capped at 1 million. The part that goes to the art fund, or the 30%, would be 30% of the $1 million.
Okay.
And in addition to that, you guys may recall a year or two ago, we increased the minimum threshold to help some small business owners that were doing interior renovations. So that was increased to $500,000 from $250,000.
Okay. Public comment is permitted at this time. Susan, come on down.
Not like up in the middle of the night calling from
Right.
Susan Hoyer, Boynton Beach, longtime board member for the Arts Board. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read the nice long email I sent. I see a couple heads shaking. Yay, that's always good. So what I did is I gave you a lot of information about the history of the Arts Board, just in the time period that I was on the board, and a lot of the projects we used to do. And I didn't go into some of this extra stuff just because I wanted you to get a perspective, because I don't know how much a lot of you know about the Arts Board, especially in the past when we had an arts director, and we were one of the top arts boards in the United States. And I would really love to see us go back to being one of the top arts cities in the country. We obviously need to have another arts director, which this does not address. But some of the things that I worried about, and hopefully you saw them in my email, was this now puts the starting point of an art approval project in your hands. You all complain constantly about how overworked you are, but yet now you're adding yourselves another meeting. You're adding another layer to this for every developer by having them come to you instead of just going straight to the Arts Board. At what point are our commissions going to realize they have boards for a reason? Take advantage of them. Other cities have final authority with their boards. That's why they're allowed to keep their boards with Live Local, because they have final authority. You guys keep taking your power away from your commissions. Why do people not want to be on boards? Because you don't ever do anything they say, and you throw their advice to the wind, and then you wonder why everybody gets up and quits. So why are you adding extra work onto your plate by adding an extra level of oversight, by you all having to approve a project before it even goes in front of the Arts Board? So please, somebody make an amendment to take that out and take that work off your plate. Also, the unique component to the art, it needs to be unique. You have a golfer out there at High Ridge Golf Club that was in somebody's I don't know, garage or something that's grossly undervalued and is not unique and was out of a catalog. So you really need to be enforcing that. Giving a discount to avoid having art when we're famous for being an art city, that's what we're famous for. And I know Vice Mayor Hay knows this better than everyone, because you've lived through the arts here in this city, and you've seen what it has been and what it can go back to being. And let's not give them a reason not to fund our beautiful city. Look at the other cities. Look how Palm Beach Gardens has jumped from 0 to 100 with their arts board almost overnight. And they're making us look bad, and we're one of the old original art cities. So I'm asking you to please, support the arts, not make it worse. And really look at the fact a lot of this is already covered under the current arts ordinance. And why are you creating something new and wasting your time now when you already have something in place that's amazing? Thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments from the commission? If nothing else, may we have a motion to approve proposed ordinance number 25-004 on a second reading?
Second.
Commissioner Turkin, we have a motion from Commissioner Turkin and a second from Commissioner Kelly. Let's turn to the city clerk for a roll call.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin?
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hay?
Yes.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes,
In a roll call vote, the motion passing unanimously.
thank you.
So, sorry, real point of clarification, because I thought that there was kind of consensus to potentially discuss adding the restrictions in. I just want to make sure that's clarified for the record.
Yes, if the motion could include the addition of the exclusions presented today. Thank you.
Okay.
The person who made the motion is not here.
Does that need to be redone?
Yeah, we need to
Shauna?
redo the motion. Is there a new motion as amended?
Motion to approve 8B as amended.
Second?
Second?
Commissioner Kelly has made the motion to approve 8B as amended. Commissioner Cruz has given a second. All those in favor say aye.
Roll.
Aye.
Aye, but we have him out of the room, so we're still good. Passes 4.
We have to do a roll call again, though.
A roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin is absent from the dais. Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hay?
Yes.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passed 4-0.
So we are. Right. Proposed ordinance number 25005, second reading, an ordinance of City of Boynton Beach, Florida. I'll turn to the city clerk to read 8C into the record.
Proposed ordinance number 25-005, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, repealing and replacing Part 2, Chapter 18, Article 2, Division 5, Section 18-145, City of Boynton Beach Investment Policy for General Employees Pension Plan or Pension Fund, to enable the pension plan trustees to adopt and modify a City of Boynton Beach investment policy for the General Employees Pension Fund, providing for codification, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances and resolutions in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, and can we please have staff begin the presentation?
This is, just to remind the commission, this is just a general requirement that the pension board wants us to change for ease of making investment portfolio more fluid to follow the ups and downs of the market. So this was a request that came from Bonnie Jensen with regard to that request. There's been no changes between first and second reading.
Any comments or questions from the commission? Public comment is permitted at this time. Each person would have 3 minutes. Okay. Are there any further questions or comments from the commission? If there's nothing else, may we have a motion to approve proposed ordinance number 25005 on a second reading? We have a motion from Commissioner Cruz and a second from Commissioner Kelly. Let's turn to the city clerk for a roll call.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin?
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hay?
Yes.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passing unanimously.
Okay, so we are moving on to D. I will turn to the city clerk to read 8D into the record.
Proposed ordinance number 25-007, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, repealing Article 13, Section 15-134 through 15-137 of Chapter 15, and any amendments thereafter which establish and revise the prohibition of conversion therapy on minors in the City of Boynton Beach, providing for conflict, severability, and an effective date.
Can we have staff begin the presentation?
This was an ordinance that the city attorney's office identified was contrary to current case law that governs the state of Florida. So we needed to repeal this so that we were not having something improper on the books. There's been no changes between first and second reading.
Any comments or questions from the commission? Public comment is permitted at this time. Are there any further questions from the commission? I would assume not.
Motion to approve ordinance number 25-007.
Second.
Great. We have a motion from Commissioner Cruz and a second from Vice Mayor Hay. Let's turn to the clerk for a roll call.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin?
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hay?
Yes.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passing unanimously.
Great. I'll also now turn to the city clerk to read 8E into the record, please.
Not tonight. Proposed ordinance number 25-008, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, repealing Chapter 2, Article 1, Section 2-19 of the City Code of Ordinances entitled Drug-Free Workplace, renaming Chapter 2, Article 10 to be entitled Employee Handbook, renaming and amending Section 2-151 entitled Personnel Policy Manual adopted by reference to rename the section Employee Handbook and Drug-Free Workplace adopted by reference, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date.
Any further questions or comments from the commission?
There's been no changes between first and second reading. This is just a cleanup.
Okay. Okay, if there's nothing else, may we have a motion to approve proposed ordinance number 25-008?
I'm sorry.
Oh, public comment, I'm sorry. Any public comment on this? No?
Motion
Okay.
to approve ordinance number 25-008.
Thank you.
Second.
Great. We have a motion from Commissioner Cruz and a second from Vice Mayor Hay. Let's turn to the city clerk for roll call.
Commissioner Kelly is absent from the dais. Commissioner Turkin?
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hay?
Yes.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
In roll call vote, the motion passed 4-0.
I will turn to the city clerk to read 8F into the record, please. It's your night, Maylee.
Second. Okay. Proposed ordinance number 25-009, first reading, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Boynton Beach, Florida, amending Part 3, Land Development Regulations, Chapter 2, Land Development Process, Article 6, Impact and Selected Fees for the removal of Palm Beach County Park impact fees from Land Development Regulations.
Okay, any comments or questions from the commission? Anything presentation, anything different?
Didn't we have a presentation on first reading?
Yes.
Mayor, this is first reading for this item.
Okay.
Good evening, Commission. Gabe Savigny, Principal Planner. So yes, this is the first reading for Palm Beach County Park Impact Fees. An overview for this, it's really just a cleanup to the code. Through the research on this one, this screen in front of you does show where the authority comes to do the impact fees. It also has the Palm Beach Charter that does govern the conflicts between the charter and the local ordinances, as well as Article 13 that deals with specific portions of a municipality may opt out of collecting those. Currently, the development permits within the city of Boynton Beach are still required to and are applicable to the city of Boynton Beach park impact fees. The result for this proposal in front of you is to actually just strike the requirement for city staff to collect those impact fees. This does not make an application void from any those jurisdictional requirements. However, it does remove it from city staff from collecting those fees. Questions from staff?
No questions? Any public comment? Oh, we don't need first reading, so we don't need.
No, there's public comment on this because we no longer have the Planning and Development Board.
Okay.
So since you sit as both, we have to have public comment on first reading.
Okay, good to know.
Hi, Susan Oyer, question. Those fees, weren't they just sitting in an account raising interest for our city before it got dispersed to the county? How much money were we making? And why are you taking away a chance to make money for our city? I mean, it seems like this was an easy way to make money, and yay, it might help prohibit some of these ungodly, buildings that none of us want. So, I mean, why are we not taking this fee? And if it just sits there for X amount of months, that makes us money. Why are you taking that away? I think you should leave the fee, unless there's something I'm missing. I mean, weren't we making interest off of this? No? So money was just sitting in an account, not making any interest? How were we holding money for months, potentially thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, and not collecting interest on it? And putting that towards our general fund? I think that's a question worth asking.
Questions from, go ahead.
Would you like me to respond to
Please.
this? Okay. Good evening again, Amanda Radigan, Planning and Development Director. So the fee that we're striking is the Palm Beach County fee. The way it works currently is that we are collecting fees on behalf of the county and remitting them to them monthly. We do not collect any interest on those fees. And the way it really works is that our residents, our developers who are paying this fee should be getting credits for the city's park impact fee, which we do collect and will continue to collect. And I'm not sure all those credits are happening the way they're supposed to. The only money that we did make off of this is we did hold 3% as an administrative fee for the act of collecting and remitting those payments to the county.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the commission? If there's nothing else, do we have a motion to approve proposed ordinance number 25-009 on it's a first reading?
So moved.
No motion, because it's first reading.
Okay. Cut that out.
What was that?
There is a motion needed.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. 'Cause of I'm sorry, yes, a motion, but it is first reading, you're correct.
Okay, yeah, because it's the second, okay. If there's nothing else, may we have a motion
Okay.
to approve? Okay. Who did the first?
Somebody made a motion.
You made the
I
second.
made the motion.
You could, okay. We have a motion from Vice Mayor Hay and a second from Commissioner Cruz. Let's turn to the city for a roll call.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yes.
Commissioner Turkin?
Yes.
Commissioner Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Hay?
Yes.
Mayor Shelton?
Yes.
In a roll call vote, the motion passing unanimously.
Okay, the last item will be a public hearing and approval for proposed resolution number R25-135, declaring the city-owned properties as surplus and directing the method of disposition. Staff, would you like to begin this presentation, please?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, city staff, and visitors. Gail Moots, Manager, Real Estate and Special Projects. Tonight's discussion is to request City Commission approval to declare 15.3 acres of land in unincorporated Palm Beach County surplus. The city received an LOI from Meisner Global to purchase 15.03 acres adjacent to 10 acres of land they purchased from Palm Beach County Housing Authority. Staff is seeking City Commission's approval to declare the following 4 parcels surplus. Parcel 1, up on the screen, is 0.814 acres. Parcel 2, 5.7 acres. Parcel 3, 1.65 acres. Parcel 4, 6.84 acres. Upon declaring the property surplus, staff will need direction from the City Commission as to disposition method, with the following being the proposed disposition methods. Allow us to negotiate with Meisner Global, request for sealed bids and proposals or an RFP, retain professional and real estate services. That's it.
Any comments or questions from the commission? Public comment is permitted at this time.
Okay, so Susan Oyer, Boynton Beach, I can't believe you guys are actually considering this. We fought a battle royal years ago, not that long ago, to save this. This is public forest that belongs to the city. It was originally deeded to stay in the public use and be a forest. This is not supposed to be sold off and become some unneeded apartment or condo. Andrew and Adam, remember when this came up? I got people all over the state to write letters and fight for this. I can't believe you guys are foolishly considering getting rid of one of the last pieces of virgin forest in our county, in our city. It's the only one. And you're wanting to get rid of this? I mean, we fought the battle. We won the battle. The people of this city did. How dare you try and get rid of this beautiful 16 acres of property that is filled with all kinds of animals, some of which are on the endangered list. I've personally been out there and walked through and seen it. And this came up when Ty was still on the commission in District 4. We had the news out there, we had the press out there, we had helicopters flying over, we had people from all over the state writing, and you guys want to get rid of this parcel that has been deeded to be public use and stay a forest. I cannot believe, of all the crazy shenanigans, this was just up, 5 years ago? And we fought and got it saved? And don't worry, I will be all over the press tomorrow and getting this out all across, because there's 1,000 Friends of Florida, all of which who stood up and fought for this. You thought the battle over the state parks was crazy? Yeah, Andrew remembers it. Adam remembers it too. This is meant to be public property. This is not meant to be sold off and become some unneeded condos. Pulte tried this and it fell apart. And they decided to build the cottage district and said, this is absolutely unacceptable that you want to get rid of our forested land that's filled with animals. Go out there anytime and see these animals all over. We do not need this, which was deeded to become and stay public access land. And anyone can walk through there anytime. The neighborhood all knows about it. They will take you out on tours anytime. They go in and maintain it and keep it clean. And monitor the animals to make sure they're safe. It's filled with hawks and eagles and gopher tortoises and rabbits and foxes. I've seen them. And I can't believe you would consider going through with this after the battle that was fought just approximately 5 years ago to save this land. Look back at the deeds. This is meant to be public land. This is not meant to be a housing project. This was not given to the city to throw away and become an apartment. This was given to the city to be public access land forever.
Are there any further questions or comments from the commission?
Is there an actual deed on this for that? And is that zoned for apartments? Because I don't think it is. I think it's zoned single family.
I can
Yes.
answer. You can answer.
MR5,
So there is a deed restriction for public purpose on the property,
parcel number 1.
parcel number 1. Correct.
One parcel only.
Okay, not the rest of the parcels.
No.
And just while you're answering those questions also, what, if any of these properties are actually within the city limits? And
None.
are actually,
Everything
I
is
know we own them, but.
We own them, but they're in unincorporated.
Correct, so we don't have any control over anything, except for that we own them.
Any other questions? Do you have a question, Commissioner Cruz? Any other questions?
No, I just wanted to make a comment for the record. I did speak to the applicant and I did request or ask of them to try to maintain as much green space as possible within this area, knowing that, there was that history. So I would just keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, may we have a motion to approve proposed resolution number R25-135?
Motion to approve.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Hay and a second from Commissioner Cruz. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. Motion,
Just for clarification, which disposition process are we going with? Are we negotiating with the person with the LOI, or are we going to RFP, or are we need the direction from the commission in that motion, if you could amend it?
What was staff's recommendation?
We'd like to negotiate with the person that provided the LOI, the adjacent purchase property
I'll
owner.
amend the previous motion to reflect that we're going with staff's recommendation.
Thank you.
so we have a motion to negotiate the LOI for the proposed resolution on number R25-135, and we still have a,
And I
I'm
wanna
sorry.
add to that just to-
Actually, it's a motion to approve the resolution to determine its surplus funds with direction to staff to negotiate with the LOI.
we're just going to leave that there. Do we have a motion on that?
Yeah, so move.
Okay.
Second.
Commissioner Turkin has made the motion. Commissioner Cruz has made the second. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All of those opposed say nay. The motion passes unanimously. We're moving on to the city manager's report. Is it, Andrew, you're going to do that?
Yes, Dan had to leave. So Dan wanted to provide an update to the commission and to the community. We're currently working on the amphitheater project. Originally, we were going to do synthetic turf with that project. The timing of it and the permitting of it just didn't allow us the window to get the project done, but we didn't want to go through our event season with the lawn looking the way it did. So we pivoted really quickly. We did some minor improvements with concrete. As you can see, they're already going. And then we are installing Floratam sod, St. Augustine sod into the amphitheater now. We're going to monitor that over the next year to see how it performs. If that performs well, we can leave it. If not, we'll still continue with the vendor to work towards having a solution that would provide synthetic turf, but we can make that decision next fiscal year.
Great, thank you so much.
And just one other thing, that this should be complete. They almost completed the sod installation this week, so we should have the amphitheater back open sometime the first week in July.
Great. Okay, moving on to the regular agenda, we are, this item was tabled at the last meeting, so we need to remove this item from the table. May we have a motion to untable? Okay, great. Commissioner Kelly made the motion, and we have a second from Vice Mayor Hay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The motion passes unanimously. This is an update from City Attorney regarding campaign filing fees, signed bonds, and petitions. City Attorney Lamb, would you begin your presentation, please?
Yes, Ian from my office will state his
Thank
name
you.
and begin the presentation.
Ian Grigorchik, Assistant City Attorney. Good evening. Spoke a little bit last meeting or 2 meetings ago about campaign filing fees and signed bond fees. I'll present some additional information tonight, and then I'll open it up to the commission to decide a few things and discuss a few things at the end. So if you recall from our previous discussion, every city should be collecting that election assessment because that's required by statute. That's calculated as 1% of the annual salary for the position, whether that's for mayor or city commissioner. And then in addition to that, you have the option to also collect a campaign filing fee. We looked at cities like Doral, Coral Gables. They do that as a flat fee. Boynton also does that as a flat fee. Currently, it's $25 here in Boynton. But you have another option. What some cities here in Palm Beach County do is they calculate it as a percentage also of that, the salary for the position. So Wellington Gardens, they calculate it as 3% of the salary. West Palm, Riviera, they go above that. They calculate it as 5% of the salary for the position being sought. Again, whether that's mayor or city commissioner. But again, The campaign filing fee is not required by statute, unlike the election assessment, so you don't need it. Some cities don't have it, such as Boca Raton, for example. And if you recall, the signed bond fee, that's the fee that candidates put down before an election if you did not remove all of your signs following a certain number of days after the end of the election. The city will keep that fee and use it to cover costs of removing signs ourselves. And a couple meetings ago, we had looked at some cities and their signed bond fees all ranging from about $150 to $500. These were all outside of Palm Beach County, so you guys had asked me to double check on cities here within Palm Beach County. And Mary, you were correct, 'cause I remember you mentioned that at the last meeting that Boca Raton does have a signed bond fee, that's $500. But I've also confirmed with Delray, Wellington, Riviera, West Palm Beach, Lake Worth Beach, and Gardens that none of those cities collect a signed bond fee. Some of them have restrictions on removing your signs within a certain number of days following the end of an election, but they don't have a signed bond fee to actually enforce that. And there was a question of whether or not we could require the signed bond fee to be paid out of personal funds rather than campaign funds. And so while there's no Florida regulation or rule or statute which speaks directly to requiring it to come out of one account or the other, there is Florida Election Commission cases and Florida statutes which says that any kind of penalty or campaign election-related fine needs to come out of a personal fund. And so since the signed bond fee is essentially a fine or a penalty for not removing your signs in time, and it kind of tracks that we should be able to require that to come out of personal funds. So we've prepared a draft ordinance. This ordinance covers several things. It covers residency requirements, for candidates. It covers the campaign filing fee, covers the signed bond fee, requires that signed bond fee to be paid from a personal account, and then it has a enforcement mechanism to ensure that happens. There's a couple blanks within that ordinance, and that's the things that we need you guys to decide. And that's the number of petitions required to run for city commissioner or mayor, the amount of that campaign filing fee, if any, the amount of the signed bond fee, if any, and the amount of the civil citation if they violate that signed bond fee provision, if we discover that they paid that out of campaign funds rather than personal funds. So with that, I'll turn it over to you to discuss those 4 items. I'll remain here to try and answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the commission?
I think we just need to identify what the direction is for staff. I like Boca's $500. Oh, I do have a question, actually. Is that for commercial property or residential? The 10 signs and the 5 days?
Signed bond fee, I believe it would cover everything equally.
So I think that's something to discuss, because if there's, a resident that has a yard sign, right? Is yard sign identified in that? Or is commercial sign, because you could have a bunch of people that may be out of town, right? Time of election, vote by mail, whatever, and then they have these signs in their yard, yet do we trespass into that person's residence to yank that sign out? You know what I mean? I just see that getting hairy, and so I want to make sure that when we do this, we do it to where there's no, there's no repercussions for not dotting our I's and crossing our T's, because I could see that being an issue. I think like 10 signs is loose, so that, I think the big thing for me is the commercial signs, the big signs, the yard signs and the easements, if, they're not pulled up, that, I think is big. The residential component is what I'm worried about, on how everyone could get nicked, because I know a lot of people are responsible. They yank up the signs, but, technically you got to have permission from a homeowner in order to place a sign or remove it, because then it becomes their property.
Right, I think I see your, if somebody else just orders a sign from you and puts it in their yard and then ultimately makes you responsible for it, right? And how do you enter their property? So I believe what we can do is craft language that says not, any signs not on private property. Meaning, so if it's in a swale.
Well, but then that goes, because commercial property could be private too. I think the concern I have is you can have commercial property.
Have permission to put it there.
Right,
and-
right. I think the concern for me is
Residential
You know,
property, yeah.
residential, people like them, some Turkin signs, you gotta say, and so for those to stay there, right, is who's obligated, you know what I mean? I don't want someone to get jammed up because someone loves that, that sign in their yard, or they just wanna hold on to it, or they're out of town, for a week or two, because those elections in March typically run over during spring break.
Right.
So I just wanna make sure, maybe it's commercial properties and the swells and the easements. Because I think majority of homeowners will take that action to do that. However, I don't want that to be an opportunity where someone gets dinged, not knowing, right?
Okay. And we can certainly, if you guys can narrow down this stuff and there's a consensus to add a provision like that. I see two people shaking their head. If I have a third, okay, I have a third. So, direction for the city attorney's office to create language that would prevent that.
I also would wonder if there's some type of language that could be in there that the candidates have to get permission from the businesses. My campaign, I got it in writing, literally from every business, and the other candidates would just go put their sign up on private property, and, it's just kind of like, oh, wow, and I did it the right way, and they didn't, and it's not fair for the business owner to have to fight that fight.
The only thing that we have to, that would be a dispute
Right.
that I don't know that we necessarily want to put ourselves in, a private dispute between a landowner and the candidate.
Got it.
Shauna, how does this change, if at all, or how do we need to, what if, hopefully this is going to deter any runoffs and things like that, but it does say after the day of the election. Does the ordinance then go further to?
We can say final election, or we can also change that language to say election or runoff election. We'll tweak it before we bring an actual ordinance to you. We can add that language to clarify it.
Yeah,
It would be after that candidate's election.
Right, that's what it has to be,
Right.
because you can have, some people win on election day, and then some people in a runoff, and so then, so I just wanted to make sure that there was some clarification in there with regard to runoffs, so that we're not then in this weird pickle where.
Okay, so if we could just have direction on the number of petitions required for a city commissioner and then for a mayor.
I thought we talked about 50 for commission and 100
100
for
for
mayor. is
Yeah,
what we
I like
had.
that.
I'm okay with that.
Me too.
Yeah, 50 for commissioner, 100 for mayor.
Good.
Quick question, so I know there's some discrepancy about if those commission signatures come from within the district or if they're citywide. Is that via charter?
If you give me a second, I can pull up the charter and look and see if that's in the charter or where that's addressed. I
Okay.
just need a minute.
If the petitions need to come out of the district, or can they be
Right.
around?
Because first time I was informed that it was district, second time it was citywide, and I think the charter was utilized to defend that it was citywide. Because there was no language actually identifying the district.
So
think you're
while
correct.
she's looking that up, how, do we want to talk about the
Filing fee.
filing fee and doing a percentage of the salary? Which I propose.
comfortable with
I'm-
that.
I'm comfortable with that too.
I'm not comfortable with that.
What was the proposed amount?
3% of the
3%?
salary.
3%?
How much is 3% of the salary?
It's 1%.
No, 1%
Now it's
is
Not enough,
no,
that's
1% is the election assessment that's by the supervisor of elections.
Right.
Our filing fee is currently $25, it's a flat fee, and then the assessment, we don't have any control over that. So what we're talking about is changing the $25 filing fee.
To 50 for district
50?
and then 100 for mayor?
No, that's
Oh,
the.
that's
No,
for
that's
the
the number of
petitions.
petition.
What about 1%?
The campaign filing fee, I thought, you guys were just saying the percentage of the salary.
That's what other municipalities would do. So what if it was
Yeah.
1%?
You have three options there. You could do no campaign filing fee,
Well,
you can do a flat fee, or you could do a percentage of the salary.
Isn't
What do
the
we
state
currently
filing
have?
fee already a percentage?
Currently it's
It's one.
$25.
So we're just gonna do a city filing fee as well?
No, so you have the state filing fee,
Right, it's
and then we
1%.
need something that's going to cover the administrative costs of Mei Lee and her team verifying all of the things she has to do.
Yeah.
Currently, right now, it's $25.
That's not enough.
And
So,
the proposed is,
I would go with 3%, but
Yeah.
minimum 1%
3%,
of the
that is-
salary.
What is the objective of all of these changes? Are we trying to line ourselves up with other cities, or are we trying to make adjustments just within our own city?
I think it's important that we make adjustments in our own city, and especially what we see is going on in the campaign system, that
But
we have
there's some-
candidates that
that
don't live in the
candidates that run.
districts, and they
Just-
loan money to themselves and pay themselves money back. There's a lot of, it's not up to Mei Lee to come in and say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shauna, but the clerk takes the documents and really doesn't have to verify these things. So anyone can come in and do anything, and you had that in your prior election where there was a residency issue. So when you start doing this, you're starting to get candidates that really want to participate in the election system, and they're not using it just to get their name out there or to take an insane amount of money and loan themselves money and funnel this money in weird ways. And I encourage all of you to look at the last election reports of my opponents, and you will see what I'm talking about.
I did.
And they
look
don't
at
even
that.
show up.
Yeah, I understand that. I just wanted it to be on the record, okay, as to why we're doing this and the rationale behind it.
Because we're operating under the Wild West right now when it comes to
Right.
elections.
Right.
yeah, fly by night.
And it's not fair as new candidates or candidates come up that as a candidate now, we are responsible for making sure that that person is going to follow the rules and verify. And when it's the Wild West, there are no rules. So you're going to get people that really want to participate in the election process and bring a little more integrity to the election process. And I think it starts with the beginning of the filing.
And understand, Madam Mayor, I'm in total agreement with you. It's not that I'm against what you're
Very
saying.
passionate about
I am
this.
for it. Okay, so,
to answer your question, it is across the city, qualified voters of the
Good.
city.
That makes it easier too. When you
Yeah.
increase the numbers, you're not narrowing
Yeah.
it to a district. So
Right.
I think, again, that's completely doable.
And I knocked on way more than 50 doors.
Oh, yeah, I knocked on 3,000, so,
right.
and when I did my petitions, I still turned in 4 times the amount.
Do we
Just
know what the
as
amount
good
is for the 1% or the 4%?
It's whatever the salaries are,
Salary.
so,
$200 for 1%.
yeah, it'd be like
that
300
what it
and
is?
change.
That's what it is,
Yeah, it's a 1% would
Yeah,
be.
'cause our salaries with
600-ish for commission.
Right.
And then maybe like south of 1,000 for the mayor.
Yeah.
Do we have a
I
consensus
would,
then?
I mean,
Oh,
I don't know, going from $25 to close to $1,000 for, I would support an increase, but maybe a 1% increase to be more reasonable. I think a 3% is pretty high up there, because there's also the state fee, which is what, another 1%?
1%.
But these are also coming out of their campaign funds, so if you have somebody who is serious about doing this,
Yeah, but if
then
you have a
it's-
grassroots candidate that doesn't have a lot of backing, like financial backing, and then they have to put their own money, like I don't know, it just,
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, I mean, my position is,
I opened my own account with my
You
own
know?
money,
So,
so.
I mean, and I've been there and I'm saying it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean,
needs to be more
things
strict.
cost a lot of money, and
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know, I just want to allow the opportunity for grassroots candidates, because I'm going to be gone in 2 years, many of us are going to be gone in 2 years. So when we're gone, we don't want to preclude grassroots candidates, residents from running because of it's, thousands of dollars just to file.
Well, it would never be that much, so go ahead.
Just to clarify, 1% of the salary for a commissioner is $246.81, and a mayor is $296.16.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
1%
heard
is good.
600 and
$1,000.
1,000, that's why I thought, okay.
Well,
3% would be.
Would be close to 1,000.
Yeah,
We're
3%.
south of
2%.
1,000.
what if we
1%.
did 2%?
So maybe do we do 2%, 1% filing fee?
Yeah, I mean, my position is we manage a $270 million budget. I think that if somebody, is going to come up here and wants to come up here, then they can raise $400 to run for the seat. I mean, and the time and the energy that we put into to representing our residents, I want somebody who really wants to invest in being the next, commissioner and the next mayor and so on. And so, I mean, that's my position. I'll cave a little bit at 2%, but I think that it's important that we start establishing, some stricter guidelines to really make it count, that, we don't have, 8 candidates for mayor. I mean, that's insane. And then you have 2 or 3 that show up to things.
Right.
And then you have, you'll have those candidates that'll, scrape away at votes. And then we end up with runoffs that cost, $60,000 of taxpayer money so that we saved somebody $200. I just can't justify that anymore. I think it needs to be stricter.
Not inundating the clerk's office.
Right.
Because you steer away the fly-by-nights, the, intended disruptors, the recruited disruptors.
Right, how much work she puts in.
And how much work the candidate has to do. I mean, you have to become Nancy Drew to try to figure out where their money's coming from and where it's going and where they're funneling it on loans. And it's just, to me, it really is a violation of it's disrespecting campaigns, and it doesn't give our city any integrity of having people that really care. And we have the serial campaigners.
So is there, if I'm hearing, I've got direction to do 1% for the state fee and 1% for the city fee?
2%.
2% for the city, okay.
3% total, including the state fee.
Correct.
Is what I gathered.
Yes, that's my position.
Oh, that's
Do
the
we have a
consensus.
consensus
We'll
on
draft
this
it that
item?
way, and on first reading, if it gets changed, it gets changed. But at
Great.
least we have direction to draft it that way.
Perfect.
And then the amount of the sign bond fee, if any?
500 is good.
500.
Yeah.
Okay. How many days would you like, and I'll carve out the residential,
I think Florida state statute is like 30 days,
correct?
if I'm not mistaken.
For the signs
For
to
the
be removed?
signs?
For the signs to be removed.
Oh, no, I'd say 10 days after the election.
I'm saying what Florida is,
Oh, well, 10 days.
because right
after
now,
the-
there's technically, there's violations still in our city.
Yeah.
'Cause it's
Absolutely,
been,
100%.
off Seacrest and Woolbright,
Lawrence
just saying.
and Wilbraham.
Yeah. So Florida state statute, I think, is 30 days, and we can go stricter than that.
I would like to
right?
see 10 days.
Yeah, we
like
can't
to
do
see
more
10.
than 30. Has to be stricter. Okay.
The draft language I have in the statute right now is 7 days, which is pretty consistent with some other cities
And
outside of Palm
the
Beach
only thing
County.
you'd have to say in case there's a runoff is then they could stay. And
Yeah,
then
we'll
that-
fix that language.
But
Yeah, we'll make sure the language addresses after the candidate's individual election and property, not private residences, those sorts of things. We'll address those
Single
concerns.
residential.
So is it
Single
7 days or is it
residential?
10 days?
Single-family residential. The issue is, if you say private property, well then.
Well, I'm sorry, yes,
Yeah.
you're correct.
Yeah.
I wrote not private residences, I just said it wrong.
Yeah. I'm okay with 10 days.
me too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and then a civil penalty for violation of the campaign sign bond.
They just don't get the $500 back.
Right.
That will be their penalty.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what the one's for.
Yeah, that's what it's for.
Well, I think we have to write it up as a penalty. That way it makes sure it comes out of their personal account as opposed to their
Correct.
campaign.
Yeah, I mean, I can clarify it. What we were trying to do is give it a little bit of an enforcement mechanism and some teeth. And that was, we were going to have candidates sign an affidavit saying that they are paying that out of personal funds rather than the campaign funds.
Okay.
And then the city clerk has an option to do a random audit of candidates' accounts. And if she discovers that someone's paid that out of personal funds, then there would be a penalty there. We can get rid of that language for the penalty. But that's
Yeah.
the penalty that I was asking you guys to come up with.
Let me clarify. Yes, obviously, if they don't pick up the signs, they lose their bond, but also then I guess we have to add in a section for a penalty if an audit shows that they use campaign funds instead of personal funds.
Enforcement.
Otherwise, we can say personal funds, but there's no way to enforce it.
Which is probably the case now.
Correct.
When one of my opponents had a violation, and I don't know if they paid with personal funds or campaign funds, but that's what started all this.
Question on how are we determining, you're saying the clerk is going to randomly or arbitrarily pick? I don't like that. I mean, that's not fair.
I have a small
Don't
concern.
put that responsibility on the city clerk.
I agree with removing signs and all that, but sometimes in politics, and we've all lived politics here, all of us sitting here. Somebody who hates you or an opponent or somebody who just wants to make your life a living hell could technically go and put up leftover signs that you have. You could go around the city picking them up, and then they could just go around and putting them back on as staff is going around checking for things. So there's also that opportunity. I'm just saying. I don't like it.
I find it funny that you think like that.
Oh, I think about everything. Oh, absolutely. I could see somebody doing that just to take the money, just to
that's
charge you the
funny.
money, 100%.
No, I definitely can
I guess
see
the
that.
losers, yeah.
So then how do you, it's a legitimate question, okay, sure, we're passing this $500 bond. Let's say somebody lost the election or won the election, whatever. And they have the $500 bond. They're removing as many signs as humanly possible through their campaign or individually, whatever, if it's a grassroots campaign, or their campaign team if it's, a well-funded campaign. What precludes another individual from going back and putting their signs down right after they were taken out as staff later on goes and checks? How do we?
So I think that's the whole argument I made, 10 minutes ago about the private property versus commercial.
Yeah.
Right? And I think a lot of this is geared around those larger signs
Okay.
as well.
So can
And
we
so if you
specify
have
that?
10, I think in Boca it was or something was not 10 signs, there was 10 signs was somewhere, right? And so if you have 10 large signs, I lose an election, I go out, I grab those 10, right, from those commercial properties, that mitigates any potential, haste from my opponents.
Oh, maybe you just have to
right?
take pictures and
Yeah,
document for
and
yourself
so-
that you've taken them down.
Well, and I think
you've
that's why I
been
think
responsible.
the residential component is important, because if someone goes and just plants a sign in someone's house, they're gonna be like, what the heck? They're gonna know.
Yeah.
So I think maybe, again, focusing on the commercial aspect, like I mentioned earlier, will mitigate that problem, but then it'll also mitigate what I had brought up earlier.
I
Yeah, we
agree
just
with
need to-
you.
We just need to clarify that.
Can I
Because
make
again,
a,
I don't think the signs, I think this is the big signs and that are on swells, that are on whatever, and I think Commissioner Kelly's right. You take pictures and boom.
You document it for yourself.
so
If it's in the swells and stuff.
I do know we have sign requirements in our code, and I think what you're talking about, maybe exempting is the small yard
Yeah,
signs,
small
right?
yard
That's what I'm talking about, small
Yeah.
yard signs in
So-
residential
So we're
houses.
focusing on the larger signs only, so we can specify
So-
that in the code.
I can
Yeah,
put
but
that,
what you're saying is gonna happen, you would probably see more in swales with the small yard signs.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm talking about the large signs
Yeah, me
in
too.
commercial properties.
Okay.
Because, or in the swells. Listen, at the end of the day, if they're in the swells, more than likely, code's gonna take care of it. They did a really good job of that last time. I mean, we had someone damage county property, state property, nailing signs to trees.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And there was no accountability for that.
Right.
So it's like,
The wild,
I mean,
wild
it's
west.
crazy, and then the city's gotta deal with it. And so this is the type of behavior we wanna prevent. So, and this is all correlated, right? This is why we need the higher filing fees. This is why we need the more petitions, so we don't have these fly-by-night installed agitators wrecking our city and damaging trees, and other things. And so I think this is, again, very important. And
I agree with you.
yeah.
If it's with larger signs, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay, so I think we can draft that. Let's just briefly, I think we're gonna remove the civil penalty portion altogether, is the direction, with regard to not paying from your personal account the sign bond. Because if we don't have a civil penalty, there's no way to enforce that. But it is an administrative burden. And then there's always, that could be raised, well, you did it, you only audited mine because of blank. So,
Possible to just request a personal check versus a campaign check, and that's how you prove it's personal money?
well, no,
Yeah.
because you can reimburse yourself through your campaign if there isn't this civil penalty.
Right.
So I don't know how we,
Not a real expense, but.
well, I don't know how
Then
we,
maybe we make the bond $1,000,
Well,
whether it's personal or
If
what,
you're gonna,
campaign.
if it's campaign money, then you make it $1,000.
That's what I'm saying.
It's
If
not
we
your
don't have
money.
a way
I
to
don't like the way
enforce
this
it,
is going. I agree with the first part. I agree with making it personal and making it $500 and
too.
making it for big signs. But
Me
I just
too.
don't want to get out of control. I
But do we
don't want
have,
to
a-
go.
you're saying we don't have a way to enforce it if it's personal?
the only way we can enforce it is if we enact as part of this a civil penalty for failure to pay out of your personal account.
We can do that.
However, the problem is, what is the mechanism for enforcing that?
The audit.
Yeah.
Which puts a lot of
Burden on the
emphasis
clerk.
on May Lee, and then potential, I mean, you could think, you only audited me because of blank.
And
exactly.
there's no.
Right.
Okay,
No, I
so
mean,
then-
if you're running, you have to be willing to be audited. If you're
Yeah.
running, you have to be ready for it. You have to
Yeah.
be ready to be screened. You have to be ready to be watched. Like, that's just how it is.
But what Shauna's saying is some candidate could say, oh, you only audited me because I'm running against Commissioner whoever.
Exactly.
And so then you're running into where then the clerk is now on the hot seat to explain why one campaign account was audited over
You
another.
open up a
More
bag of
likely,
worms.
I'm a good candidate,
You
they're gonna
didn't
police
audit-
it on the other side, so.
Now, let
that's
me
what-
just say, you didn't audit me, or you didn't audit that person because they got elected and they're on your board and you're afraid they're gonna fire you if you audit them.
Right.
So no civil citation means then there's no mechanism to enforce whether it's private or public, or, I'm sorry, private or campaign funds.
Correct.
So we gotta decide what's more important.
It's more important.
Yeah.
I would like
Okay.
a little
So-
time
so
to look at
maybe
some other
if-
municipalities and how it's done.
Let me-
like in
let me-
Wellington
So
and stuff.
propose something and then.
If you like, I can draft an ordinance.
Boca.
We'll bring it to
Boca.
first reading, and then if you wanna change it, we can change it.
Okay,
Sounds
good.
that sounds like a plan.
And then we can
Perfect.
amend, can we have some options too?
It's a little hard on a first reading, but we can certainly bring options.
Then some options in the backup?
Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
Okay. Anybody have any more final comments for tonight?
To adjourn.
Nope.
Did you
Second.
decide the number of petitions required to run for? city
50.
commission?
Yeah, I have it.
Commissioner and 100 for
Okay,
mayor.
we have
5100.
Commissioner Cruz made a motion and
Second.
Commissioner Turkey made a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. No further business to discuss. This meeting is adjourned at 8:46. Thank you. Here's your glasses, Shama. I was blind as a bat.